Thank you guys for joining me here on the last segment of today's show. And just to end today's show and end the week on talking a little bit about the playoffs. And I think going forward, we're going to talk more about them, obviously, as we kind of wind down the regular season, now entering into the second half. These weeks are just flying by. And watching last night's game really had me thinking like this was a playoff game, just with the entertainment, the stipulation, the circumstances of everything. It felt like a huge game, and I feel like in the second half of the year, with all the scenarios and games that we have just coming up, all these games are gonna feel more and more like playoff games, just on the stipulations and everything like that. So even more significant for the teams on the outside looking in, right? Because the teams inside are feeling a little bit more comfortable, right? Because they're in a playoff spot. But the teams sitting outside of the playoffs for me right now, there's about six of them combined from both conferences that I'm looking at that still have a shot to sneak into the playoffs at this point in time. To me, looking at the AFC conference teams ranked 1 through 5 right now, being the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Texans, the Buffalo Bills, and the Baltimore Ravens right now. Those teams to me, I feel pretty confident in that those 5 teams are going to be in the playoffs. The seedings, they're going to probably be different than what they are right now, but I feel the most confident in those top 5 teams that we're going to see them in the playoffs up until now. And it's really about those last 2 spots, in my opinion. And in the NFC, I feel even less confident about that. To me, only the top 3 teams, being Detroit, Washington, and Atlanta, that I feel the most confident about, right? You know, Detroit's going to win their division. Washington, if the Eagles do catch up to them, they're not going to fall off and just miss the playoffs. So they're going to be in it for sure. And the Falcons, they're going to win that division. Everybody else has just kind of fallen off. So the remaining spots are really 4 through 7 for them, and for the NFC, that is. So to me, I'm looking at 6 teams right now in both conferences that have the best shot of making the playoffs based on how they perform and their schedules and whatnot. Those teams are the Bengals and the Jets in the AFC, and the Rams, the 49ers, the Bucks, and the Seahawks still in the NFC. And looking at those games, starting off with the Bengals and what their situation is currently looking like, they sit at 4-6 right now, and they have 7 games left. 4-6, we talked about it. They probably can't lose more than 2 games, and they, like we said, they have a couple tough games coming up against the Chargers. They have to win that game. Against the Steelers, another must win. They play Dallas, Tennessee, Cleveland, and they should win all of those games based on the other teams. And again, a game against Denver and another game against Pittsburgh. So certainly some winnable games in there. And even the Chargers and the Steelers, quite honestly, are not unbeatable teams. So the Bengals have a good opportunity here. The loss last night certainly hurt, and it would have helped a lot if they would have beat a division rival, right, and gotten a win already. But these games coming up for them are not nearly as hard as some of the other games coming up for all these other teams. So they have a very good shot still to make the playoffs. Then we look at the Jets. They sit at 3-6 right now, right? And they have 8 games left. They have 8 games left sitting here at 3-6. They have to travel to Arizona, like I said, this week. They have a game at home against the Indianapolis Colts, another game at home against the Seahawks. They travel to Miami. They travel to Jacksonville. And to end the year, I mentioned they have tougher games coming up. They're going to play at home against the Rams, away against Buffalo, before closing out at home against the Dolphins. And the Jets, even more so than the Bengals, they could probably only afford to lose one more game. And that's why the games against Arizona, Indianapolis, Miami, even, both of those games, the Jaguars, all those games they have to win, because the Seahawks, the Rams, and Buffalo, those are going to be very tough teams to beat. And they're fortunate to get the Seahawks and the Rams traveling across the country to come visit them. But at Buffalo, I feel like that's going to be a loss. So maybe if they get a lot of help, they could sneak in, but they really can only afford one more loss. So it's looking pretty tough for the Jets. Then the Rams and the 49ers are also 4-4, and they still have to play each other one more time. And mixed into their schedules, right? The Rams still got to play the Eagles, still got to play the Bills, and they got to play the Jets, and the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the 49ers still. So they still have a very grueling schedule left. Their only gimme games, I would say, are Miami, the Patriots, and the Saints. And that's pretty much it. Everybody else is very tough competition overall. And the same can go for the 49 or the 49ers, because they still got to play the Seahawks one more time, the Rams one more time, the Cardinals one more time. They already lost to the Rams and the Cardinals, so they got to win those two games. They got to travel to Buffalo, which is grueling. They got to travel to Green Bay also, and this week is not an easy game against Tampa Bay whatsoever. And they still got to play at home against Detroit, and they're sitting at 4-4. They have one of the tougher schedules left remaining on their schedule, obviously. And then the two other teams that I mentioned are Tampa Bay and Seattle. They both have a 4-5 record, and Tampa's got some tough games, not nearly as tough as the other teams that I mentioned. Their toughest game is going to be against San Francisco this week, and then honestly, they should probably win all of their other games, except maybe the Chargers. That could go either way, but after the 49ers, they got to play the Giants, the Panthers, the Raiders, Dallas, Carolina again, and the Saints again. So because their division is so easy, they're going to have an easier go of it than the 49ers definitely. So that could benefit them definitely a lot more. And Seattle, a pretty grueling, remainder of the schedule too. Still got to play San Francisco again. They lost to them. They got to play Arizona twice here in the next few weeks. And like I said, travel across the country to New York. They got the Green Bay Packers at home. They got the Vikings at home. The Bears on the road won't be an easy game, and the Rams on the road as well. The NFC West is really, going through it with some of the gauntlet of the remaining schedule. So if we're looking at which sort of these teams is most likely to make it in, it all depends, right? Because you look at the NFC, it's crazy because honestly, I think for Arizona and the playoff scenario in the NFC overall, I mentioned how I'm only confident in the first three spots, right? Then afterwards, I'm looking at number 4, and I'm looking at the number 7 spot right now for the NFC. I'm looking at those two spots in particular because I don't feel like Arizona's going to win the division. I already said the Rams are going to win it. So I feel like Arizona is going to fall potentially, and because of that, spots number 5 through 7 are looking like the most other anticipated spots. Green Bay's at number 7 right now, and they look a little bit shaky. Philadelphia's got a tough, go of it still, with a couple tough games against the Commanders, the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Rams still, and they're in a playoff spot right now. So really, I feel like right now it's Minnesota, Green Bay, and Philadelphia in the wild card for the NFC. I feel one of those wild card teams is going to drop. I don't know which one, but I feel like at least one of them is going to be knocked out of the playoffs. So with that would be one wild card spot and the number 4 seed in the NFC playoffs as the two spots I could see potentially for the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Rams, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to try and fill in there as well. And in the AFC, unfortunately, it's a little bit tougher. I only really see one wild card spot opening up, and based on that, right now the Broncos occupy that one wild card spot that I see only opening up because I think the Chargers are good enough to make it. So it's going to be the Chiefs are going to win their division, the Bills are going to win their division, the Texans should win their division, and then the AFC North, the Steelers and the Ravens I think are a shoo-in to go in. So whichever one is the last seed, the other one's going to take the wild card spot. And then, like I said, the Chargers are good enough to make the playoffs, so they're going to take another. And to me, I feel like Denver, unfortunately, isn't going to make it. I feel like they're going to drop off here in the second half of the year. And that spot, to me, is going to be occupied by the Cincinnati Bengals. They are the most likely team, in my opinion, to take a playoff spot and make it into the playoffs. Obviously, they'll take the last seed or whichever seed they are in the AFC playoffs. Then it gets tricky with the NFC. For me, I would say the Rams are going to win the division. They're going to be the 4th seed or whichever seed they are. Arizona's going to drop out of the playoffs. I don't think they'll make it. And then the last wild card spot, I think Seattle makes too many mistakes. I don't think it's going to be them. The Jets, too hard of a schedule. They're going to lose maybe more than 2 games, in my opinion. And Tampa Bay also. I feel like they dropped off a little bit from last year. And Chris Godwin's going to be out the rest of the year. That's tough to overcome. So, because of that, the Rams are going to win the division. They're going to bump the Cardinals down. And San Francisco is going to take a playoff spot away from the Packers, the Eagles, or the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know which one, like I said, but I feel like one of them is going to drop. And the 49ers are going to take one of those spots. That's what I'm predicting 10 weeks in so far into the NFL season. I'm going to update that as we go. It's probably going to change based on some of the results, and we're going to start to see those results come into fruition this upcoming Sunday. So with that being said, that does it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the Chip Shot Football Podcast, as well as following the network on all forms of social media. If you want to see more of this show, check out both YouTube channels, the Podcast Network channel and the Sports Network channel, to catch more of the Chip Shot Football Podcast in a variety of different ways. And if you do like watching the live shows, join me every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for more coverage, discussion, debates, breaking news, everything surrounding the NFL with, of course, me, Manny Maradiaga, as your host. Thanking you guys for joining me. Hope you guys all have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys back here on Monday to recap all the craziness from Sunday's games in the NFL.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to